Sheila here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is Jupiter Day, Venus Day, Jupiter Hour, and Jupiter is in the ninth house but 18 degree. Mars is squaring Jupiter today on the 18 degrees, so expect religious war clashes. And right now the midheaven is next to Venus, so with fractions from the full moon. Moon is 11 degree Aquarius and Saturn is 29 degree Pisces. And here are some things and some shout outs for the Saturn at the last degrees of Pisces. So let's go one by one. First of all, the Epstein list, I'm going to move it away from that. The survivors are coming up with the Epstein list. I'm required to talk about who trained Epstein, which is MK Ultra, but who were the trainers? Because we have Elantra, who was supposed to be an Epstein, supposed to be a breeder, Peter Ringleader. It almost rhymes, and he managed to get out as a satanic ritual abuse survivor, raise awareness, and deprogram. Um, so behind every visible name, there are handlers that work through mind control, because when they torture people, people are able to have ESP, but from fragmented point, they are puppeteered in a very literal sense, okay? And they're more susceptible to hypnotic commands, but also to telepathic hypnotic commands, psychic attacks, and this is a part of the reality of the abuse, without which we cannot eradicate extortion cults if this is our intention. And now, nay, um, okay, there is Happy Pancake, so shout out to Happy Pancake. She talked about the assassination of major CEOs, whether it's health companies and kind of, really corrupt companies. And I see it as of the beginning of the end of Saturn in Pisces, because we open Saturn in Pisces with both a refugee ship sinking and a um, and a couple of billionaires meeting the passengers of the Titanic, and so and so we close it with big CEOs of really corrupt companies becoming, going to the light. What is this is striking about Saturn in Pisces, um, because it's the end of big wealth, but also big helplessness. And I want to emphasize, as a person attending to political assassination prevention, a person who is escaping, I don't know if I am not a survivor of Epstein. I'm going to say it again. I don't know if I'm not a survivor of Epstein. There were attempts to traffic me. From what I know since academia, I also ran into something in 2007 around the murder of Madeleine. Um, they came from Germany, but I didn't connect the things. And there are many things that go all the way back to childhood. So I lived most of my life in Israel, um, except for several months in Europe, and this is what I know. I was born in a natural birth, and I know that for certain, um, and that's important, okay? Because with those rings, there are people who are born cloned, and they do have a birthright, okay? just Let's just make that one clear. They're not soulless people. What makes people feel like, or their energy feel like soulless to other people, is when they're extremely tortured and they do horrid things. Um, so fend yourself from the horror, but also it's important to understand those details that I talk about, in order to actually change the reality. Okay, we need to understand what is the reality to change that reality. And the way that they are grown, they're basically grown in a certain world of ritual abuse, um, where they eradicate anybody that is not the most evil. Okay, so they basically promote evil, um, and they would continue to be business people, visible people, so that the world would be controlled by design, by evil, and so that it would shape our beliefs around money, wealth, abundance, sex, and life in itself and the world, into belief that the world is bad, the world is evil, and so on and so forth, or at most see it as we need light we need the darkness to see the light, and so on and so forth. This courtesan division is a part of a feminization ritual of rape of children that is supposed to fragment their soul. And this is why they would later believe that we need the darkness to see light, while, stuff like this and I don't know, eating plants or animals, or consuming the living, is a part of the cycle of death and rebirth. But all the other dumbfuckery is man-made or alien-made. I don't know. I mean, there's also that thing that people talk Nephilim and stuff. And by the way, the Ethiopians that did not ban the Book of Enoch were castrated in Israel. And it was a lot of challenge to acknowledge them as Jews, because they have the Book of Enoch, which means they might be able to identify the Nephilim, which basically is children that were not born in a natural birth. Okay, but the point is not that they were not born in natural birth. The point is that the circumstances around that, they went through abuse, and that is not mentioned in the Book of Enoch. But they went through abuse, a ritual abuse, and that was intended to attack the light and make only that which is not the light survive. So it is also connected with Nazi ideology. Any belief, okay, all my life to Jews, okay, it's not anti-Semitism. I have ancestors Jews, and yesterday I had a karmic breakdown, and it was in the neighborhood. And I was speaking with my mom because it was like I was coming back in the evening, and I began to scream and say, "Hey, if my grandfather's family was trafficking people like Epstein, then I'm okay with them dying in the Holocaust." And for some reason, that needed to come out. The only thing that I would be sorry is that people did not die in a free suffering death at that time. And the root of that evil is creating a master race to which there would be servant races. That evil exists in indigenous societies in Africa. I don't know about indigenous America, but I know Sedna's story was about her father wanting to receive some witchcraft powers, basically, and selling his daughter to be trafficked. That when you hear it from BIPOC people who tell the story, not the people who like have a family, have a this, have a that, okay, the people that actually know the story, then it's about the father trafficking his child. And so when we talk about those billionaires dying, it's not they do that to have the resources controlled by people who are extremely violent and evil. And this is not about, the billionaires are all evil and money is evil and so on. No, everybody wants to have resources because we need resources to live, and we need to live good. And the individual rights is what keeps individual rights is why you have the right to not be raped. Okay, as a boy, as a girl. And you don't want the people who were violated in their childhood, because then you'd get the Hitlers and the Mussolinis, and they'll come in Churchills. Okay, they'll come in people that like they know the drill, they know the drama, they genocide the darker skinned people, and then they get to be the winners of the war. Then there was the don't eat the rich, starve them, which is about boycotting a lot of companies. And again, it goes back to what I was talking, which is satanic ritual abuse, and they grow up in this world, and they would be the people who would have access to business, or like an ex-banker once said, I can show you where the money is, but you'll have to freeze your consciousness to minus 100 degrees. Unfortunately, they had to freeze their consciousness again after I gave a shout out, so I don't mention them by the name. Then there is the Epstein list. So those are the shout-outs for today. And to me, this marks the end of Saturn in Pisces. The younger wealth, and here is another shout-out. I don't know if I will find his channel. Because I think I watched some video. Now you're gonna be seeing my video history. Um, yeah, now you're gonna be seeing my video history. I want to see if I can find this page. No, that seems too far. Okay, seems too fucking far. I can't find it right now. Um, anyway, um, so the thing is that the generation of the wealth or the wealth transfer, there's a lot of people in the next generation of wealth, whether old money or new money, that want to have it different. They simply don't want, you think about people like Alandra. He had to give up not only access to wealth, but having to protect his own life, to raise awareness to the dumbfuckeries. Okay, so even when I was singing, I don't want to be a Peter Ringleader, um, okay, um, because to have, you know, and it's not about giving up wealth or let it to the rich, because that is affecting everybody's lives. And it is about actually exiting violence, is about actually becoming more ourselves. Dealing with psychic attacks is about actually stepping into what we're meant to be doing in life. Um, and and this is where it's not the denial of wealth, but actually building wealth that we actually enjoy, and build and intimacy and sexuality that we actually enjoy, that is not built on torture and abuse. And so this is and relationships that we actually enjoy. Okay, just like most feminists will tell you, hey, it's not about not loving men, it's actually about, hey, where there's a man missing. There's a man gone missing in satanic ritual abuse and extortion cults. And so, and they cannot be women without without them. Okay, and they cannot be men without women. And so, yeah, they can be clone people and so on and so forth. But the yin and the yang polarity, even on an androgynous base, the yin is important and the yang is important to be healthy. So this is one of the things that begin to happen as Saturn is leaving Pisces, and there is an end to, if humanity is going to survive, there has to be an end to ritual abuse and ritual abuse based wealth. Okay, so that the wealth is actually wealthy. Um, Uranus in Gemini already begins to play a role, so we see the unionization of workers, um, banning and boycotting and funneling the money, seeking to funnel the money elsewhere, seeking to grow plants even if in one's own room, and exchange goods with people. Um, and again, that's a part of the tendencies that we do see with those transits. And of course, Pluto, um, Pluto in Aquarius. I do remind that when Saturn is moving from pharmaceutical companies, big businesses and wealth, megalithic wealth, mythical wealth, it will progress forward to military elite, even new projects. For example, when Saturn was in Aries and there was the bombing with Iran, then the new projects were bombed. The new real estate projects were bombed. So new weapon companies, military elite, um, yes, anything of that position. And Saturn is the bureaucracy. So if people are like Secretary General, yes, that can actually pinpoint that. I'm not saying like being unalived, but definitely there's going to be big attention in an accountability type of attention. Okay, um, and also real estate. So there's business, and then there is real estate. We saw now. Why did we see BlackRock with Pisces? Um, Maybe it happened during Saturn in Aries, maybe Saturn in Pisces, because this is megalithic stealth wealth and structure. So the real estate is not so important. There was a CEO of BlackRock that was unalived. Um, and another thing is that those that they work on treason cults, their upbringing works on treason cults. So it's not just the people that are depopulated, but it's the usual fights over power and inner treason that is a part of what brought them to this point, begins to cross the threshold of their very lives. And that's just a nonlinear dynamic system. Thank you very much. Um, that's just the nonlinear dynamic system of treason cults and extortion cults. And as a person attended to political assassination prevention, um, while escaping assassination attempts that I didn't understand, like it's just kind of like, yeah, I was researching academia and I attended to many things, so it's like, okay, I get it, but this is what you try to prevent a political assassination, and then it's like, okay, there's that thing and that thing and that thing and that thing and that thing. And I'm like, okay, well, at least a politician can tend to his own assassination, where a mafia person cannot. And so, but within that is trying to find the points of interference to get more people to have the chance to be a Landra, um, and not die in the way out of these cults. Um, Actually, undoing witchcraft has a major deal in that because they curse themselves, and those are medical curses. Also, access to euthanasia. Then this is very important because the death cults, they kind of like decide who can receive. Hitler had cyanide, and you can see what it did to get cyanide. So, and so, and so uh, access to euthanasia prevents suicide. The way that it works is just access to choice. And when people have access to choice, they begin to be more optimistic about their lives, and they begin to choose life. And then, of course, life has to accommodate for that. And then the circumstances which people become overflown and overwhelmed and want to have assisted death or death with dignity is beginning to be exposed, and so the world has to accommodate. And this actually is one of the key parts in remediating corruption. Big shout out to the Dutch psychologist that I think is in jail for trying to make death more accessible. Again, I don't know if the product he was selling was probably not painless death, but he was trying to be activist on that topic. Um, I know that there are, to say the least, complications with the sarcopag, particularly on the first death. Um, there were complications, and if anybody develops technology regarding that, try to see what is you're gonna barfing. Yeah, in Japan it means that the food is good. Anyway, you're gonna need access to the things that are actually euthanasia, um, when you develop the technology, and to have that in immediate access, because the technology, just like the sarcopag, can go wrong, and you're gonna have to have another alternative way to kill the person if they still want to go along with the suicide. Um, and so this is tip for people who want to develop technologies or even weapon, because when it comes to the weapon industry, we need weapon that is actually not ritual death, but actually assisted death with dignity. Because the more there is a death implication to violence, then the less people are prone to continue on that violence because it faces them with an access to choice where, hey, that team would allow them to have euthanasia if they need, that team wouldn't. And okay, so this is and this keeps it's a key discernment between warfare that is a part of a ritual satanic abuse of life, human sacrifice, that is attack on the light, and war, which is defending, okay, defending life. War essentially is defending life. But then, and the important thing to know, uh, current war is making profits to people. Those people should be sharing the dividend, and nobody should be paying for the price of war. Okay, whether it's taxes, whether it's austerity, whether it's access to resources, nobody should be paying the price of war. And this is important. I believe there are going to be tax strikes, and it's going to get the people that are sitting on the fence to side with sides, but it's also going to get the people, if somebody, and this is where there's a lot of people who are disabled and so on and so forth, they're going to have to be accommodated. Okay, so, and this is the most important thing. Sovereignty and sexual sovereignty are one. And those who will accommodate for sexual sovereignty will have more sovereignty. Those that don't cannot have a plea when they're being assassinated. And I say that as a person who tended to political assassination prevention. It's done, the way that it's done is that, okay, the person that is behind the gun, they don't do it for money. Okay? And to break the value of the person that they assassin, they show them, they torture them and show them, hey, that's the person, the person that you assassin, that's what they do. Okay, so this is how you get shooters to shoot, because they believe that they are doing the right thing. Okay, for example, in the Masons, there are rituals where they treat people like animals. And you get an animal right activist to assassinate a Mason, then they believe they are doing the right thing. So this is something where there are, because the doors are opening to exit violence, it's doors of accountability and exit at the same time. And this is the access to choice. People that didn't have a choice before begin to have a choice. Okay? And people that, and within that, the people that don't have the access to choice might move to the light. Okay, which is what happened with Saturn in Pisces. BlackRock, to be a person of BlackRock is kind of like almost the skulls and bones. It's a big deal, and that person was unalived. I'm not saying this has to be the whole fate of BlackRock. Okay, it's just like and so a healthcare company that is doing corruption along each and every managerial aspect of the company, yeah, that CEO was unalived. So yes, I don't remember all the examples from that video, but the thing is, and this is Happy, what was her name? Happy Pancake. Okay. She talks about the American people. I predicted that American people are going to start acting. And yeah, we are a fraction before another eclipse of the people in the fourth house of United States. And with the people start with the peopling. So, so yeah, I think at this time it's important to keep the door of exit violence as open as possible, because this is the door out of the ghetto. And yes, when my father is when my grandfather escaped the ghetto, um, he had people shooting at them when they exited the gates, and they managed to run. He managed to run through Italy, got no shilumim. His brother ran through Germany, and yes, and of course in Israel people said, "Oh, it's too bad that Hitler didn't finish the job." um, as to the topic of Palestine and Palestinian people, as there may be a declaration of independence, and I think I addressed the elections for declarations of independence. Um, so there might be something like that. Um, Again, a rule of discernment: if you see any flag of Muslim Brotherhood of Satan, it's not Palestinian liberation. And one can say, Sheila, but it's also true to Israel. And I say, yes. We are dealing right now with the fact that this is an Epstein land. Okay? That a lot of the things that we have been undergoing since childhood beginning to connect. And whenever a criminal, whenever, let's say, somebody has raped many people, actually we had famous actors that were raping many people, and then they became religious. So what do they do there in Bnei Brak if not traffic women and and children? Otherwise, let the Haredi people actually abolish the Epsteins. But it's not just about Jews. The Mormon is the same story. Islam is the same story. Indigenous societies, the same story. And this is, people only understand that in colonialism because it was indigenous people that told me, but they cannibalized their enemies. Indigenous people, okay. And then the people that conquer, they learn from them. So this is what we see up in the 1%. And immediate death has a big role in stopping these cycles of violence. Okay, so that is, when people say, oh, I can get away with this, I can get away with that, it's like that person dies, that person dies, that person dies. What they're being sold on is that they will live forever. And it's not necessarily a pleasant life. Okay, like they're not necessarily so happy. So they try to compensate with wealth or with achievements or with supposed legacy, but it's stolen because there's energetic colonialism. They use children and whatever has life energy to try to consume it to become life full in all kinds of rituals. And this is why people say they're soulless. And then everything that they build is actually, it's kind of like, the big lesson of that is also that the common person is way more wealthy than they think they are. It's just that the energy is harvested by putting them into trauma and taking away with ritual from their talents, instead of encouraging them to develop their talents and exposing them to the opportunities. When Israel wanted to develop technology, it did encourage people to develop those traits, but it only encouraged the people who are the toothpasta generation. And by the way, I want to give a shout out. It's an Israeli company. It's called Masik. And I don't know about the company, so if it is having corruption within its management, then I'm open to hear about that. But the product itself is a lemongrass. I don't get dividends for that. Lemongrass natural toothpasta with Dead Sea salt, fluoride free, kosher. Fuck that. Okay. Um, for if Epstein is kosher, then I don't eat kosher. And so I don't eat not kosher on purpose, but I don't eat kosher. No fluoride, fresh and not. Anyway, it's very tasty. You do taste the salt, but what I like about it, it's a small package. However, when you open that, and I was complaining about the whole of the tooth pasta, because when I was in high school, the JP Morgans through IBM wanted us entrepreneurs to have ideas like like increasing the tooth pasta whole double so that people will spend more without feeling that they're spending more. Okay, people had colleagues of mine had patents that could make a disabled person communicate with their family. They preferred anybody that would come with a double the tooth pasta innovation. So I drank their free chocolate, which was wonderful Dutch chocolate in IBM in Tel Aviv, but I did not give them my patents. And this is one of the good decisions that I made. But this is a tooth pasta. It's my karma. Good karma. See, karma can be good. The hole is tiny, and it's only as much as you need to use. And you taste the minerals. And this is remineralization of the teeth from the Dead Sea salts. The company is called Masik Natural. It's from the Golan. So there are other issues that people may have with that. Yeah, and they said it only need a little, and you brush your teeth. And so far, I really like it. There's xanthan gum, but other than glycerin, other than that, I did not identify any foreign ingredients. Granted that those are indeed the ingredients. So you see, I talk about the tooth pasta, and here I have an actual tooth pasta that is not the JP Morgan tooth pasta, I hope. And this is also Saturn in Pisces, at the end of Pisces. For those who say, oh, we don't buy from Israeli companies because of Palestine, let me raise it up a notch. If you are boycotting, boycott the Epstein affiliated business. Okay? And they are also trafficking very likely in Palestine. We don't know about that. The children that you see making the peace sign, those are children that highly unlikely that they did not go through satanic ritual abuse by MK Ultra and have handlers. So this is important to listen to them, and also important that to know about this phenomena. They tried to make me do the peace sign twice when I was in Netherlands with the sneakers, and when I did water expense upon cooling. So it's non-volitional, and then you kind of learn to regain, to be more aware that this, because I was channeling, and so to be more aware and discerning while channeling. That's it. That's what I have to say. All in all, nice transits, karmic endings, and yeah, emotional release, because those things are beyond draining. And remember, when you see lists of people, keep in mind that the people behind, underneath gloved hands, are also maneuvering here the situation. If they put a person through psychosis and then they basically commit crime through their bodies, this is a part of the ritual. And I want you to listen to Light, because Light had an episode about that. Light had an episode about that where she talked about the channeling. It's not this one. I think it is this one. The someone you know, someone with TV and zipped, trying to reach you in spirit. Okay, only now I see the TV. It's about a series. That's interesting. But this is about somebody was doing psychosis to get people to commit crime through them. Okay, and the only person I saw except for me that's talking about this is Light in this episode. So this is important to understand that, because we need to understand how do these things happen. It's probably links to water expands upon cooling, which was inspired by Peter Arthur Free's Misdaad for Slachtoffer. Peter did not tend to the hidden facets. And I was supposed to do a season 2. It was completely, I was like pissed off that people blocked me, but then I saw the channeling of Madeleine. I won't see it here. And on that channeling, basically the lady channels the murder of Madeleine, and it was a part of a Nazi cult. And the cult leader saw that she sees him, because they usually see that when they're being seen. And what happened is she had to clean her energy. So I was supposed to do a season 2 of Water Expands Upon Cooling, tending to those very topics. I wasn't even aware that I was supposed to do that. So that was and yeah, and this is a part of how it's done. Okay, they put people through torture, and then they get into induced psychosis, and then they're basically mind controlled, and sometimes under drugs. And so this is important to understand, that this is how these things work, so that we can begin to have points of interference that allow people to exit violence. Okay, there are many people within those cults and secret societies that want the fuck out. By the way, okay, I'm not gonna say now. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much what I woke up with today. Um, that it is so. I hope that this makes things clearer. And again, with those exposures, we have more understandings of the mechanisms behind, so that there can be a change uh, in, towards the direction that is actually benefic in a world that actually accommodates for the living.